Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is the author of the children's book Adorable, no other than Mr. Ron Kinscherf.
Hey, thanks for having me along. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Ron, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Ron Kinscherf, Quincy, Illinois, small town right on the Mississippi River. Started writing children's books about 4 years ago. I was an IT consultant up until that time. Uh, Decided to find something different to do. I have grandkids, and it was suggested to me to basically write the stories that I was telling the kids down, and so I could share them with the rest of the world, I guess, for lack of a better statement. So that's kind of how I got involved in writing kids' books.
Indeed, truly inspiring, Mr. Ron. And thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world. How did you come up with the title Adorable? It does reflect a character, a theme, or both.
It's so how this book came about is a lot of the books I write involve an ant colony. So I have 8 books in a series. It's called the Baker's Patio series, and it's about a thriving ant colony that lives underneath an older couple's patio. So this is the 8th book in the series, and I got the idea for the story. Um, I had a grandson that got extremely jealous of the little sister that his mom and dad had. And the baby obviously was getting all the attention when the baby came home, and this 2 year old was not real happy about it. So I thought, that's a pretty good story to tell. So I had the story built in my head about the queen of the colony coming, having a baby, and the prince, who was an only child at that point, meeting the baby and getting extremely irritated, becoming very jealous, and then basically running away from home. I had it in my head. The thing I didn't have was the name of the child. All the ants in my colony, their names begin with A. So Queen Antasia is the queen. Queen Andrew is the son, or Prince Andrew is the son. So I had to come up with a name that started with A, and I just couldn't find anything that fit. And then one morning I was sitting around and thought, okay, adorable. Adorable would be perfect. Because she is adorable, and also they could call her Dora for short. So adorable is the name of the young baby that comes into the family that creates the jealousy that kind of is the theme of the story.
So, Mr. Ron, was their story based on a real child, pet, or experience from your own life?
Yeah, that as I mentioned, the I had a grandchild born, and the middle child got very, very upset and was very jealous, and that's how I got the idea for the story.
Let's talk about the character and the story, Mr. Ron. Who or what is adorable in the story and what makes them so special?
Well, adorable is the name of the baby who's born. Um, she's just a newborn. The primary focus of the book is on the prince, who becomes jealous and runs away from home. Um, he runs into a very wise character, the wise owl, who's the wisest character in the entire neighborhood, who tells him that his mother, the queen, has enough love for not only himself and for the colony, but also for the young baby that was born. So that's the lesson that he learns: is a mother's love is eternal. There's never too, the mother has enough love for everything in her life. So he did not have to worry about the mother forgetting about him and only caring for the little baby that was just brought into the into the colony.
How do you balance fun and meaningful life lessons in your storytelling?
I'm sorry, one more time. How do I?
How do you balance fun and meaningful life lessons in your storytelling?
Um, Life's fun. So I write about life. So the message just kind of tells itself, I think. If you have, I don't necessarily start writing intentionally to produce a message. I just write the story, and the message kind of comes out of itself, if that makes sense. I knew what the story was about. It was about jealousy. So I didn't have to force the message into the story. It did not have to be squeezed out because it was inherent throughout the story. Now, the fun part is a lot of that's just the illustrations because we use a lot of uh, unique things within the story because the ant colony that I've created can only use things that it finds to build things in their colony. For example, the palace for the queen is introduced for the first time in this series, and the door to the palace is made with popsicle sticks. So, that's kind of a fun part of the story. There's humor involved throughout, so that's how I balance it. I mean, the story is fun, and the message just kind of comes out on its own.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Ron. And did any of the characters surprise you as you were writing?
Surprise me. Um, no, I mean I knew what they were going to do because I kind of had it mapped out in my head. There really wasn't any surprises throughout the story.
So let's talk about the visual and style. Can you tell us about the illustrations? Who did them and how involved were you in the visual design?
Holly Brogard does the illustrations for my Baker Patio series, and this is the eighth book in the series. And I'm heavily involved. The illustrations do not get made without my approval. Um, so we storyboard each book, like I'm assuming most authors do with their children's book illustrators. We storyboard it. I give her my ideas. Um, she sketches them out. We talk about it. She does have input, but I have the final say on what each cell is going to look like. So the our cooperative efforts has been pretty successful. We pretty well see eye to eye on what children will enjoy. Um, she's obviously has a lot of skill, and she very much enjoys creating content for kids. And it's just been a great working relationship.
Mr. Ron, how important is a visual storytelling in a book like Adorable?
It's important. I think in any children's book, it's critical. And there's two things I want to say here: is you know, the majority of the kids that read my stories can't read. Their age is like 3 to 5, 3 to 6. So what they're going to be drawn to is the illustrations. Um, but there's another side of this too. The book must be enjoyable for the adults reading it. If they don't like reading it, they're not going to pick it off the shelf and give to the kid. If they don't like reading it, they're not going to buy books 4, 5, 6, or 7 of my series. So there's a few things we definitely do. We try to hide specific things for the adults within the story, particularly in the illustration side, that they'll notice that the kids won't get, if that makes sense. Kind of like Easter egg, um, like the handle on the door for the palace. I mentioned it was made out of popsicle sticks. The handle to the door is a soda can tab. Most kids aren't going to get that, but I think that'll bring a smile to the face of the adult. Another thing we intentionally do is we make sure the words we use in our stories are understandable by a kid that's ages 3 to 5. Nothing more frustrating than reading a book to a kid when the kid doesn't know what the word means. I've read a number of stories for my grandkids where they say, "Papa, what does that mean? What does that word mean?" So we try to eliminate that situation as often as possible. And another thing we do very intentionally is there will not be a word on my book, in my books, that are on a dark background. There's nothing more frustrating than reading a children's book as an older person whose eyes are not as good as they used to be in a dark room with dark letters on a dark background. So we make a concerted effort to make sure the background behind all our letters are pale, very gray for the older reader. So the intention there is to make sure the books are enjoyable to read for the adult because they have the money. My customers don't have money. So there's a great effort to make sure my all my books that I have out are easily read and want to be read by the adults.
For sure. Adorable to read. Do you have a favorite illustration or scene in the book, Mr. Ron?
I would think gosh, that's a good question. There's two full page spreads in the book. The one I mentioned has the popsicle sticks when the prince comes to the front door of the palace. Uh, Again, the ants can only decorate or use items that they find on a patio. So there's a lot of acorns, a lot of twigs, a lot of sticks, things like that. The door of the palace is decorated with clover and dandelions, that type of stuff. So that's a 2 page spread. The other 2 page spread, which I really, really like, is when the prince gets angry and he flies off and runs away. And it's hard to describe. He's flying over the neighborhood, and there's a gray scale with a lot of color, and then there's a kite that pops up into the sky with that's red and yellow on a very gray background. And my grandson's favorite colors are red and yellow, so that is represented in the kite. Also, the clouds in that uh, on that scene are shaped like teddy bears and a dog and a puppy and stuff like that. Again, those are things for the hopefully the kid recognizes, but also for the adult to go, okay, oh, that's cool. Ron and Holly put clouds that actually are shaped like things. Maybe that's something else I can talk to my child about. And when we go outside the next time, we could look in the sky, and maybe that's something we can do together. So I think those would be the two-page spreads we have in the book are pretty cool.
Mr. Ron, let's talk about writing for children. What do you love most about writing for children?
Um, so a lot of this I do because I'm making up stories for my grandkids, and I have one grandson in particular that is a part of my process. So I'll get a manuscript written and I'll read it to him, and just to see if he smiles or not. And then we get the sketches, and I run the sketches by him and see if he smiles or not. So I have a pretty good audience reference wise to whether the stuff's enjoyable or not. And then that aspect is fun, but also going into classes and schools. I was at a school today and read to 84 kids, and just seeing their smiles and their when they when they see Adorable for the first time, they go, oh my gosh, she's so cute, things like that it's just very heartwarming when you can make a kid smile. I think anytime, no matter who you are, if you can make a kid smile, that makes you feel good. And I think the cool part when you create content like this is there's a lot of kids that are smiling that I haven't met because they've purchased the book somewhere, and I don't know the kid, but hopefully he's with someone older than him reading it to him, and he's getting a kick out of it.
Definitely priceless when
Yeah.
children are smiling. What's the biggest challenge when creating a story that speaks to a young hearts and minds?
Making sure they understand it, making sure it's economical as far as the words I used, because you don't want it to be too long. Um, the younger kids, their attention span isn't what everybody else's attention span can be. That's a challenge. Making sure I use words that they will understand is a challenge. Um, but for some reason, I'm good at it. Maybe it's because I'm not the most mature individual in the world, and I think like a 3 or 5 year old, but for me, the easiest part of the whole process is creating a story and writing it. Um, After that is the challenging part, finding people to buy it, finding people like you who would be interested to talk to me about the craft. That to me is the elephant in the room. I mean, there is making, I don't say that for becoming profitable, because profit can be viewed in two different ways. Like we mentioned, a smile is profitable, but there is a financial side of this because illustrators, there's an economic side of this. So the business side is definitely a challenge, but the content creation to me is a challenge, but it's a challenge I enjoy. It's hard to describe how I enjoy the challenge. It's not really a challenge. It's just something I enjoy doing, and it doesn't feel. Is it easy? Not necessarily. But do I view it as a challenge? Not really, because it's just fun. There's nothing more fun for me than taking my words and talking to my illustrator and storyboarding it. That to me is the best part, because if I can convey to her what's in my brain, and if she can draw that feeling is pretty darn cool. I remember the first book I did, a few years ago. I remember when I picked it up for the printer, they gave me, they printed a sample copy. I started crying because I finally saw my words on paper with the pictures. And to me, it's like a songwriter or any other anybody else that's creates things, and standing in front of a crowd and laying yourself out there. I don't know if people are going to like it. I mean, I like it. I like the pictures, but that doesn't mean you're going to like it, or anybody's going to like it. You're throwing yourself out there. But just seeing that for the first time was like, I'll never forget that feeling. Just nuts. So rewarding.
Yes. Awesome. So, Mr. Ron, what would be your short-term and long-term goals as writing for children's book?
I want to visit as many kids as I want. That would be the short and long term. I call it playing. I want to play with kids. I want to go read to them, and I want to help them create, use their imagination, make up stories, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I've talked to high school kids about this. Tell them the challenges, from a financial aspect of it, and from finding people to actually market your book for you, stuff like that. But the short/long term thing is to break even financially. I mean, that's probably might be a shock to some of your listeners. I've got 11 books out there that are in stores right now. But if I can, I'm very competitive. If I can start breaking even, that would be fabulous. I mean, I think what I've found out is a lot of authors, whether they write fiction, nonfiction, or do what I do, they do it as a side hustle. It's not their primary. There's very few people who can do this as a primary profession that can make a living at it. And if you look at the people who are making a living at it now, the Baldaccis, the Grishams, whoever you want to talk about, they had other jobs when they first started writing. Yes. It's kind of funny when you read the bios. So I would love if I could be in a position, and I don't, I'm not going to make millions of dollars. I'm not wanting to do that, but if I could just break even and kind of have my retirement job be traveling around, reading to kids, talking about the craft, and maybe having one kid want to be an illustrator, or maybe having another kid want to use his imagination to create some content, that would be awesome. That would, because when I go into classrooms, especially the older kids, and I ask them, do you like to read? And the younger kids will say yes, first, second, third. But as they get older, they say no. I go, why? And I think a lot of it is the content they're given in school to read, they don't like. So that part is an interesting discussion to have with like a 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Like, guys, you're going to have to, even in this technological age that we live in, you're going to have to know how to read, and you're going to have to know how to comprehend, because no matter what profession you go into, it may be electronic stuff, but you're going to have to be able to read it and comprehend it. Even if, just think about auto mechanics these days. They have to use and comprehend so much more information now than they ever did to be able to fix your car, and to be able to learn how to do that type of stuff. It's reading and comprehension. And if you don't know how to read and enjoy it, you're going to have a pretty hard life. And sorry, I'm getting on a tangent here, Daniel. Another piece of this, though, is that when I started going into schools, I found out that the literacy rate for kids and adults is ridiculously low. It's like 35, 40%, that kids and adults can't read at their level. Did some more research, and that is a leading cause of unemployment, drug use, crime, all that type of stuff. So if we can get kids to read more, odds are they're going to be more successful. And that will be not only good for that person itself, but good for the community, because it could reduce crime. It could, all that other stuff that is bad, and that's just literally, I'm sorry, I hate to say literally again, but it's just because people accept the challenge or learn how to read and comprehend. That makes such a big difference, so many different ways, socioeconomically, in our communities.
Totally agree with you, Mr. Ron, and very well said. Very well said.
Well, thank you.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to write a children's book?
Jeez. Talk to people before. Well, what is your goal? If your goal is to make money, you might want to toss that out the window. But I would, because there's things that I did not know I had to do that I had to do when I first wrote that first book. Again, I did it on a lark. I wasn't. I just did it for fun. I was in between jobs. I thought I'd try it. Um, but copyright, legal, Library of Congress, ISBN numbers, all this other stuff that goes with it, marketing that I wasn't aware of until I started doing it. How much the illustrator costs? How do I get my books into stores if I want to, that type of thing. There's a lot of this stuff that I had no idea I how to do that I've learned. And my advice would be find people who have done it and talk to them. Um, the chance of being picked up by a major publisher is 1 or 2%. I fortunately, Adorable has been picked up by a publisher. So I'm one of the 1 or 2% of authors who have been picked up by a major New York City based publisher. Um, Talk to somebody who has done it. And just hear what they have to say. Now, if you just want to write a story, have for your family and have fun with it and do your own, I mean, go for it. But if you're wanting to make this more than that, have a conversation, reach out to people. And what I have found out is the author community, and you might be able to attest to this too, is very generous in giving their time and giving advice to people within the industry. The way I look at it is people have helped me. So if anybody asks me a question, I'll be more than happy to answer it because there's been so many people along the way that I've the brains I've picked and been able to pick up some stuff.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. Ron. Do you plan to turn Adorable into a series or create more books with similar themes?
Well, this is the 8th one in my series, and I'm planning on having more. I've got more written. I did a tally. I have like 8 or 9 more written for this Baker's Patio series that I have yet to put on into a book form. So I'm just kind of wait and see right now. But yeah, that's the game plan.
Yes, indeed. So, Mr. Ron, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. I have a lot of podcasts maintaining each week abstract essay in fifth season already. Fifth season, abstract poetry. Of course, my book 101 review, comedy 101, food 101, geography 101, love letters, and my baby podcast, mental health 101, movie 101 review, and of course, music 101. Please do listen wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Ron, if Adorable had one message for kids, what would it be in their own words?
Your mother has enough love for you. I mean, your mother is an unending pot of love that they can share with everybody. I mean, and no matter if they have 1 kid or 60 kids, the mother's going to have enough love for everybody. That would be my message.
Indeed, adorable message. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your children's books?
Yeah, you could find Adorable Barnes and Noble, and also if you go to my website, it's called papatellmeabook.com. Just like it sounds, papatellmeabook.com. You could pre-order it and take a peek at everything else I've got out there too.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Ron Kinscherf because if you support him, more and more and more adorable children's books to come. So, Mr. Ron, thank you so much for your time.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Bodycon people, see you soon.